It's the Sports Peninsula podcast coming up. The Detroit Lions fell on Thanksgiving to the Green Bay Packers 29-22 in front of a national television audience at Ford Field this past week. The Lions now head south to the Big Easy to take on the 5-6 New Orleans Saints. The Lions are 2-1 in their last 3 games, but have played some of their most concerning football year to date. Can the Lions right the ship in the Superdome? We'll discuss that and more next. Now, here is your Sports Peninsula team. Welcome, everybody, to the Sports Peninsula podcast. My name is Dave Drzinski Drew, and can the Lions right the ship down in New Orleans this week? We're going to talk about that, and join me to talk about that, along with the Thanksgiving game, is Detroit's finest, Justin Merrick. Justin, how you doing?
Doing well. Wish I could say the same for our Detroit Lions. You know, it was a rough game, but hopefully we get back on track. Hey, we're still 8-3. You know, a lot of NFL fans would love for their organization to be at 8-3. So Still a lot of football left, and there's still a lot of excitement and hope ahead.
Yeah, and you know, I had to kind of talk myself down off the ledge a little bit because let's face it, the last 3 games the Lions haven't played that well, but they're 2-1. So, however, they've also played the Chargers, Bears, Packers. You know, Chargers are decent, Packers are decent, Bears, the record isn't very good, but certainly they played well against Detroit, but Detroit was able to win that game. But yeah, Thanksgiving was a definite kind of a head scratcher, I would say, because I know we all picked the Lions to win. We didn't pick them to win by a landslide by any means, but we certainly thought they would win the game. And Justin, it didn't seem like anything really went well for the Lions. They just couldn't sustain anything positive for a long period of time. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, usually, you know, with teams, especially our Lions, there's usually just like one side of the football that was wrong, or, you know, special teams, the kicking game wasn't there. Offensively, you know, maybe Goff was having an off day. Defensively, can't get home to the quarterback. All those things happen, including, you know, the kicking game with Riley Patterson missing that extra point, you know, early on, you know, when we were kind of just battling out, duking it out with Green Bay. But the most glaring thing that I saw was the defense just getting absolutely no pressure on Jordan Love, and he had all day to throw. So I don't care who you have back there at quarterback. It could be Jordan Love, or, you know, it could be AJ McCarron, you know, that's now heading up, you know, the Cincinnati Bengals. You give a quarterback 5 to 6 seconds to throw a football in the National Football League, they're going to find open receivers. So that was disappointing to me. But probably the most disappointing was our offense, because we kind of hang our hat on our offense of, you know, high scoring and, you know, leading the way, like you alluded to, the LA Chargers, you know, game, you know, 41-38, you know, that's a lot of points to score in the National Football League. And we just could not get it going. You know, Goff wasn't there. The running game wasn't there. Nothing was there. So all in all, just a major disappointment and a setback, you know, I would say.
Yeah, it's a home loss against a division rival. And I don't care what the record is. That's a game you got to win, and they didn't win it. But to your point, they are 8-3. But you touched on Jared Goff, and when you look at the statistics, 29 of 44 for 332 passing yards and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, looks great. 3 fumbles lost. Not blaming him for all of those. He was under duress a lot in that game. And honestly, I would say, you know, Jonah Jackson was out again. But I would say they didn't get good play out of Swordsaw at left guard. And overall, the line didn't play well as a whole. That includes Decker and Sewell. They were taken advantage of a bit in that game. It almost seemed like they kind of hit the wall. But when I was talking about, I talked myself down off the ledge, so to speak, before this, you know, for this game, after this game. Because at the end of the day, every team in the NFL, every good team right now, the Niners, the Cowboys, the Bills, the Chiefs, have all had a 2 or 3 game stretch in their season where they didn't play well, and they got beat by teams they shouldn't have been beaten by. The Eagles may be the one exception because they've only lost once, and that was a game they should have won against the Jets. And the Jets do not have much of an offense, but they have a great defense, and they lost that game. The Niners have lost to the Browns, you know, and it's, you know, the Lions beat the Chiefs in Kansas City, and, you know, Detroit's a good team, obviously, but, you know, nonetheless, and the Chiefs have had, and I think Denver beat them, if I'm not mistaken,
Yes.
this year. So, you know, no team's infallible. The Bengals started out very poorly, and then they started catching fire, and then Burrow got hurt, and that's going to be bad news for them, obviously. But the Bills are just a 500 team this year. Who would have thought that? So I guess to step away from losing to the Packers on Thanksgiving at home on national TV, that hurts. But to your point, they're 8-3 still, and most importantly, they're up 2 games, I believe, in the loss column to the Vikings. No, 3 games now, correct? The Vikings have 6 losses. That's huge. 2.5 games, but it's 3 really in that loss column because you can't get those back. But like we talked about, Jared Goff, he had his moments, but overall not a great game. They weren't able to make adjustments, and that's not just on Jared Goff, but the whole team, and again the line really struggled for the first time all year, and it showed. And we talked off camera before the start of this about the running game, and let's jump into that. David Montgomery, he had only 15 carries for 71 yards, but he did get the touchdown. And again, in under hitting less than 20 carries a game, David Montgomery still finds ways to make an impact, right?
Yeah, as you pointed out, yeah, it's not the 100-yard game that we all wanted to see and we've come to know with this offensive line and David Montgomery, but he was just kind of just getting yards here and there. Nothing too flashy, but still a hard runner, still hard to bring down. So that was good to see. But when that offensive line is just not getting the job done, and like you alluded to, Colby Sorsdal, the rookie from William and Mary, I think the Green Bay Packers exploited that. And as we know in the NFL, if you have one link on that offensive line, it kind of throws the rest of the guys on the line out of sync. And that's what happened. So Montgomery really wasn't able to get going and just explode like he usually does. But still, that's a solid stat line: 15 carries, 71 yards, and a touchdown. Mm-hmm. So, I wouldn't say it's disappointing, but, we just wanted to see some more. But that offensive line was not playing up to par. Therefore, Monty couldn't get going as well.
And the same can be said for Jahmyr Gibbs, right? He only had 11 carries and 54 yards, so decent output, nearly 5 yards a carry, 4 catches for 19. But again, that's only 26 attempts between the two of them. That's not a bad number, but again, it's just nothing really went right for this offense, and it all starts up front. And I'm not trying to throw Sorsdal under the bus per se, but because he played well in a spot duty earlier in the season, but it is what it is. He struggled. This line's been banged up all year. I don't believe Jackson's going to be ready for the game on Sunday. I haven't heard anything, but hopefully we'll hear a little more on Friday or Saturday because we're recording this now on Thursday, the 30th here of November. So maybe there'll be a change there in his status. But as of right now, we've not had any kind of update, but they could use him back certainly, and I'm certain he wants to play. This is a contract year for Jonah Jackson, and the more time he's missing, the less likely he may be able to get a bigger contract in free agency, or maybe even the less likely the Lions are able to re-sign him per se. And I it's just let's get him back and let's start winning some football games, right? Mm-hmm. So they got to definitely get healthy on that line for sure. But let's talk about one bright spot, as always, Amon-Ra St. Brown. He still gets his 9 catches, 95 yards, didn't get a touchdown, but as always, very dangerous. Talk about St. Brown.
Oh, Mr. Reliable. I say the same thing, and I'll never get tired of it week to week. I mean, he had some big catches, key first downs, extending plays, getting open, yards after catch as well. Another hard guy to bring down. He doesn't go down on the first tackle, the first touch per se. Just another day at the office for, our top wide receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I just can't say enough good that he shows up every week. And like I said, he's reliable and he's Goff's safety valve right now. And we need him, down the stretch. And it didn't work out in this game, but yeah, if we just keep putting him out there and keep getting touches, him, getting the football, good things will happen. And I know he was goose eggs Thanksgiving, but like I said, he still extended, some plays. He got some first downs. If it weren't for that, the game really would have been out of hand.
Oh, yeah, no question about that. I mean, he was able to help keep them in that game. Khalif Raymond really showed up, 90 yards on 5 catches. He made some nice plays in that game. He certainly, I mean, the Packers made a concerted effort to try and really try to stop the run, and they did a pretty effective job of at least limiting the run. I mean, the Lions still had over 120 yards rushing, but they were able to put a lot of pressure on that line, a lot of pressure on Jared Goff, and they were able to force the fumbles and other mistakes. So, unfortunately, a lot of this was all for naught, but there still were some encouraging numbers here for some of the guys. And JMO again with he got a couple catches, 51 yards. Seems like they're only able to get the ball to him 2 or 3 times a game. Justin, are you getting a little concerned about that?
Yes, I'm getting concerned in the sense of that one play where he got the chunk of his yards was that crossing route that he ran, and he did that a lot at University of Alabama, and I believe that could be his go-to route, if you will. So I am getting concerned because it's kind of spotty right now, and I believe he should get more touches and more looks, more targets, and I don't know why it's taken Ben Johnson, the offensive minds, to do this late in the game or the season, where there's plenty of tape at him at Alabama, like I said, doing these crossing routes or these deep posts. That's where he's comfortable with, where he can run and catch the football, not necessarily doing curl routes or these drag routes or whatnot. He likes to get off the line, and then he wants to catch that ball in stride. So hopefully moving forward, especially this Sunday coming up against the Saints, hope we see more of that, because I believe he gets more targets, he gets more looks that way, and more routes that are tailored to him that way. Big things can happen with this offense, and then that will set up the run and the rest of what Ben Johnson wants to do. But yes, I am getting, I would say, mid-level concern with Jameson Williams in this offense.
Yeah, it's hard to judge what the real issue is here. Is it something with the playbook? Is it something? I don't think it doesn't seem to be anything physical, because we've not heard of any setbacks for JMO. So, um, not just is he struggling to read coverages? I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm certainly not an expert, but yeah, it would be nice to get number 9 more involved. There's no question, because he's such a factor with that speed. Sam Laporta did find the end zone though again, and that's great. Another 5-catch, 47-yard performance. He just seems to be Mr. Steady, Mr. Reliable. I know against the Bears he had his really a rough game, but kind of a little bit more back to normal here for Sam in this one. So talk about Sam Laporta, Justin.
Yeah, which is wild that we're talking like back to normal since he's a rookie playing tight end, first year in the NFL. Again, can't say it like Amon-Ra St. Brown. I can't say enough good things about Sam Laporta, because he blocks well, he catches well, and he finds the end zone, which he was able to do on Thanksgiving. So this guy is, I think every week he just keeps setting records. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe he has multiple records now, I believe, for a rookie tight end in the National Football League, with catches, yards, and I believe touchdowns. So, and if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, I think he might be leading George Kittle of the San Francisco 49ers and some categories here. So
Yep.
just moving forward, he just keep on doing what he's doing. I mean, this kid has just blown me away being a rookie. I don't think people understand how hard it is to transition. You were the man in college tight end to the NFL tight end, because there's so many things you got to learn with the offensive line, blocking schemes, that being a big part of your role, and then you throw the passing game in there too. He's just taking it all in, and it just shows his football IQ is off the charts. So glad he's a Detroit Lion.
No, you hit it on the head. I think it was I think Tony Romo brought that up a couple of weeks ago during one of the broadcasts, and he said that he feels like tight end's one of the tougher positions for a rookie to transition to, like you said, and it's because they have to know the whole playbook. They have to know all the run plays and all the pass plays, because they're the tight end's involved in some capacity in all of that. And that's a tribute to him. I mean, he's obviously a very, very sound football mind. And we knew going in that he certainly had a high football IQ, but he's certainly showing it here. The physical abilities are as advertised. You would hope you'd see that at year 3, but we're seeing it in his rookie season. So yeah, we're very excited about Sam Laporta. Josh Reynolds did get a touchdown as well. He had a couple catches for 15, but again, he's starting to make an impact now, and he's been a pretty impactful guy most of the season. He's really Jared Goff's go-to. Wouldn't call him a safety valve, but he's kind of a clutch guy when he needs that third down or that key first down play or to find the end zone. Josh Reynolds has been there. Last couple of games was a little bit not about kind of a non-factor, but again, the Lions haven't played real well in the last 3 games, so. It's good to see Josh Reynolds get on the stat sheet. But any thoughts additionally about this offense before we start talking about the defense? Because 29-22 loss, but it wasn't as close as it really looked. They really struggled to get things going in this game.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me is these 3 and outs and the drive stallers. They had chances. They got their hands on the ball quite a bit, but they could not finish drives, or it was a quick 3 and out. That's not what you want, for your football team, especially at this late in the game in this season. I'd like to see them, finish drives with either a field goal or hopefully a touchdown, but at least a field goal, get some points out of it. But they have the drive killers. That sticks out in my mind because that could come back to haunt you, and I don't want that to be a repeat pattern moving forward, especially on the road. Got some tough games, and I know we got to go play Chicago again, but it's going to be out in the elements at Soldier Field. So, and this game coming up too, the Superdome, that's a tough place to play as well. So I just don't want to see these habits start to really creep up,
Yeah, no question. And let's face it, I mean, the offense played well against the Chargers. They scored 41 points. They're able to move the ball. The defense has really struggled over the last 3 games, and that's what we're going to talk about next. And, overall, they didn't play. Statistically, it doesn't look terrible. Only 109 yards rushing for the Packers, 268 yards passing by Jordan Love. They scored 29, but they had the fumble recovery for the touchdown. But they didn't force any. They had no sacks, no forced fumbles, no picks. The time of possession was virtually even. Lions had it for 32 minutes, Packers 28. But the Lions had 3 turnovers, Packers none. Lions no sacks. Packers were able to pressure Jared Goff all game long. So I guess the concerning point here on a defense, let's talk about the lack of a pass rush. And I don't know what you saw, Justin. I know the Lions like to only bring 4 a lot of times, but I liked the Raider game 4 games ago on Monday night. Believe it or not, it's already 4 games ago. But that's the last game this defense has played really well in, and they blitzed a lot. They didn't necessarily bring the house. They would bring 6 on occasion, but they put Garoppolo under a tremendous amount of pressure. The few times they got to Love in this game, he had to throw it away. And we've seen them play Geno Smith and Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes, and those guys were under duress, but they were able to make plays. Jordan Love wasn't able to the few times he was under duress, but it was only a few times, right? Let's talk about the pass rush.
Yeah, it wasn't there. It was non-existent. You see that stat line there, goose eggs, 0 next to sacks. Mm-hmm. Aaron Glenn and company got to figure this out. Like you said, that Raider game, Garoppolo's under duress, getting sacked, throwing the ball away. Jordan Love, I saw no penetration, and it's not for lack of trying because all these guys are trying, Lee McNeil, Hutch, everyone else on that defensive line, sorry. But there wasn't any penetration. When you're not getting penetration as a defensive front in the NFL, I'm sorry, you're not going to win drives, against the offense, and you're certainly going to get worn down as the game went on, which that's what it looked like because our defense was just out there so much and just could not stop Jordan Love and company. And our corners as well, both Cam Sutton and Jerry Jacobs, got, kind of lit up, early on. Cam Sutton did, lost track of Christian Watson and, Jerry Jacobs as well. But again, that's that lack of pass rush and penetration. So they're going to have to figure it out. They're going to have to get creative with stunts or just kind of different blitzing schemes, possibly, bring in a safety. At this point, we got to try everything because we can't go to New Orleans Sunday and onward for the rest of the season and play like the stat sheet says right here, with 0 sacks, 0 forced fumbles, just no takeaways really. So it can't happen.
Yeah, and really this isn't what I would call a must win against New Orleans on the road. However, if they have any chance of competing for that first round bye, they're 2 games back of the Eagles. This is a conference game against a team that's 5-6. You need to win this game. You need to win this game. This is about tiebreaker. It's a winnable game on paper and based on performance this year. And we'll talk about that a little bit coming up here. The Lions are the better team. Who's playing better lately? Well, let's talk about that. I mean, when we talk about the New Orleans Saints, now Derek Carr was out for a couple games. Jameis Winston subbed in. But Justin, I was looking at who they've played, and realistically, they haven't really had a tough schedule. And the games that they've won, they beat the Titans and the Carolina Panthers. They beat the Patriots. They beat the Colts, who's a decent team, and they beat the Bears. Okay, they've lost to the Packers, Buccaneers, Texans, Jaguars, Vikings, and Falcons. So what it tells me is the Saints beat the teams they should beat, but they're not able to really step up and raise their performance level. Now, when I bring up that Packer game, they actually were winning 17-0 going into the fourth quarter, and they lost 18-17.
They should have won that game. Derek Carr exited late, and I believe if he would have stayed in that football game, that they would have. And that was on the road at Green Bay.
Yeah,
So.
That's right. That's the game he did get hurt in too. So, their games have all been close. I mean, they're they blew New England out, but other than that, they've been pretty competitive football games. So their defense has kept them in the games. I think they've either played up or down to their competition, but this is a team they can beat. Their leading rusher is Alvin Kamara, who, if we recall, actually missed the first 3 games for suspension. So he's still leading them in rushing. Jamal Williams has been off injured, but we'll be, I think we'll be seeing him on Sunday. So that'll be nice. Taysom Hill is a nice Swiss Army knife. He's got 287 yards rushing this year. We know how versatile he is, and when when you see him in that Wildcat, he's probably going to be running the football. So I would guess that overall they have a pretty balanced attack. But what do you see as the keys to victory for the Lions? What do they have to do defensively to stop the Saints offense?
They have to disrupt Derek Carr. I mean, we've seen it time and time again. We saw it when he was a Las Vegas Raider. That's why he had so many frustrating games, and he probably should have won a lot more as a Raider. But when teams get to him and disrupt him, it throws him off his game. I mean, it just really affects him. So he really likes the swing passes to Alvin Kamara. I watched that Atlanta game on Sunday, did a lot of that. So we really got to limit that, because once he gets in space, he's kind of like our guy, Jahmyr Gibbs. Once he gets that ball, makes the first guy miss or breaks a tackle, he can really hurt you. I'm talking 10, 15, sometimes 20 yards plus. So we got to limit that. Like you said, Taysom Hill, he's their, Swiss Army knife on the offensive, front. So we got to take care of business there. The good thing that's going for us, though, is I don't know what receivers they're going to have ready to go. They got some guys hurt, concussion protocol and whatnot. So, but we can't take that lightly as well, because this is the NFL, any given Sunday, so you don't know who's going to step up and possibly have a big game. But I believe if we get to Carr, we got to get some sacks. We got to get some pressure on him. Limit the plays for Alvin Kamara. He's going to get his, he's just a phenomenal player. He's great with the football in his hands. But if we just limit that, and then we kind of shut down Taysom Hill, then, we have a pretty good chance of, winning this football game on the road.
Yeah, and you mentioned concussion protocol, and that would be Chris Olave, who is their leading receiver. He's got 771 yards on 63 catches this year with 3 touchdowns. So far, he's been a limited participant in practice this week, so I think they're holding out hope he'll clear. I'm guessing he's going to. Rashid Shaheed, who's the youngster, he's playing pretty well. He's got 534 yards receiving on 33 catches. Michael Thomas, who has 448 yards receiving this year, he's out with a knee injury. So there's another guy that's out. So Yeah, they're a little limited. Jawan Johnson and Foster Moreau have been handling the tight end duties along with Taysom Hill. They're kind of a three-headed monster in that position. Although Hill plays a lot of tight end and wildcat. Uh, but yeah, I agree with you. To me, if you do pressure Derek Carr and you force him to do things he doesn't want to do, that's the key to victory right there. Because Alvin Kamara is really the guy you got to key on. Because he's also got 355 yards receiving to go with his 457 yards rushing. He's got I couldn't believe this. He has 54 catches already this year. So the Saints like to throw the football a lot.
He
And
caught a lot against Atlanta Sunday. They love him in space.
yeah, and he's dangerous. He's a former third round pick out of Tennessee, and same draft of the Lions got Kenny Galladay, if I recall, as a matter of fact. So that was a nice one. But yeah, Alvin Kamara is a very very tough player. But yeah, the key here is you put pressure on Carr. If you put Carr on his back and under duress, you got a good shot of limiting the Saints' offense. But let's talk about what the Lions' offense needs to do against the Saints defense to win this football game. Justin, what are your thoughts?
Well, we got to limit three guys. Their linebacker, talking about the Saints, Demario Davis. He's their top tackler, phenomenal player. Cam Jordan, defensive end. He is going to wreak havoc on our offensive line. So we need to make sure that we know where he's at, where he's lined up, possibly get two people on him. And then Marcus Lattimore, who the guy has just been in the league for a number of years now, and he's just a phenomenal player. I've always liked him, liked his style. He's very aggressive, very rough, likes to, jam up, receivers and really be on them. So those three guys I'm looking at that we got to, key in on, Goff and company. But if we do that, we should be able to, come out with a victory, So I'd really like to see the offense possibly get up tempo too. Don't let New Orleans get set because, like you said, that's kind of their bread and butter. That's why they kind of hang in games because their defense. And really just we need to limit Cam Jordan. He's on that level, the upper echelon of defensive ends. So we cannot let him, come bearing down on Jared Goff on Sunday.
Yeah, Yeah, you're right about Jordan, but Demario Davis definitely leading tackler and also with 4 sacks this year. So he's been impressive, no question. And Granderson's another guy. He's got 5.5 sacks this year with 54 tackles. So he's a tough one. And yeah, you mentioned Lattimore, lot like C.J. Gardner Johnson in my mind. Pretty abrasive guy, very physical. Definitely likes to chirp out there a little bit, and that's what you want that on your team. I mean, that's the guy that's going to get into your head and get under your skin a little bit, and that's always a good thing. But yeah, I think they're a solid defense. They got the Honey Badger there too. We can't forget about Tyron Metz.
Yep, he could still make plays.
He's still making plays. Yeah, they're a good solid team. And you can't take them for granted. I think the Lions got to bring their A game on the road to beat them. But I think though if I agree with you, if they get into tempo, if the offensive line's able to control the line of scrimmage, and that's never been a concern all year. A little bit now with I think they played a 3 games in 11 days actually. Because they played the Monday night, they played the Sunday night, Sunday afternoon in LA, and then Thursday night and a Thursday game again. So now they had a 10-day rest. Let's hope the Lions have healed up a little bit, had a little break, kind of refocus, recalibrate. Do you have any concerns that maybe I don't see this in this team, but do you get any concerns that the teams maybe have been reading a little bit too much of the press clippings because they've been getting so much national love, and there's a tendency to relax a little bit, like we've arrived? Do you see that at all?
I don't think so. I just think at this point in the season, with all the other teams in the NFL, there's tape. And what do you do when you got a lot of tape on someone? You can start to dissect it. It's just like in baseball with a new pitcher that's striking out everyone because you don't have tape on the guy. Once tape is developed, you could start to attack, that pitcher's weak points and weak, fastball or curveball or whatnot. Same thing applies to football. And I think, with the tape that we've put out, our offensive, game planning and whatnot, teams are starting to dissect that and game plan pretty effectively, which Green Bay did on Thanksgiving. So that's why you saw early in the season, we kind of beat up on Green Bay. and our offensive line controlled it. And yeah, we were healthy. We had Jonah Jackson, but that's why you saw the flip of the switch on Thanksgiving that, they looked like a Super Bowl, team that was crashing down our offensive line. It's because of tape. So I don't think they're buying into that. I think Dan Campbell and company, these guys have all played in the NFL, so they can relate to the players and they can kind of keep them in line. And I think Campbell's doing that. I don't think he's letting them, the ESPN and the NFL Network, game day mornings, Kyle Brandt's always raving and loving on our Detroit Lions. But no, I don't think so. I just think they got to find a way on both sides of the football and the kicking game. Riley Patterson's got to get better. This is it. We're in the thick of the season. So we just got to figure it out. Keep playing our ball and good things will happen.
Yeah, and just getting back to the importance of this game, not a must win, but it is if you want to have some playoff success. It is if you want to make a run in this playoffs this year. And this team can do that, and I would think that that's the goal. They can compete with anybody. They've proven that this year, but they've also shown us in the last 3 weeks that they're vulnerable. But I thought Danny Campbell made a statement, and he kind of said that after the trade deadline and kind of echoed it last week. Is like, these are the guys that got us here now. These are the same guys who were making plays, 3-4 games ago. We're going to get back to where we were. In looking at, do I think the Lions will beat the Saints on Sunday? I'm gonna rely on that mindset and mentality. I'm gonna say, yeah, Lions win this game, and I think it'll be close, 24-21, and maybe Riley Patterson steps up like he did against the Chargers and hits that last-second field goal and wins the game for the Lions. But I can't pick against them in this game because I truly think that as long as they bring their best effort, they're going to win this football game. But what are your thoughts? How do you see it?
I believe we can win. I really do. I know New Orleans is a tough place to play. The Superdome is always loud, and they always seem to play a little bit better. They're a well-coached football team too, with their head coach and company. But I see them escaping with the victory, 31-20. I just don't think we're going to completely stop Alvin Kamara. Like I said, he's going to get his. But with the receiving core of the New Orleans Saints kind of in question, a little bit of cloudy, I think that works in our favor, and we just need to take care of business on the offensive side of the football, which I believe we can do. So, they've kind of struggled against, teams in our division. So that's a good thing going for us. So I think they get the job done. And if, like you said, if they want to keep pace, we got to forget about Philly. Philly's on a whole nother level. That ship has sailed. But you have San Francisco and Dallas that, Dallas has a huge game going on right now tonight, against the Seattle Seahawks. So yes, we do. I would like a home playoff game. I want that home playoff game at Ford Field. So if we want to do that, we got to keep winning. We can't, drop these games. So that's the way I see it.
No, I agree with you. And when in looking, I just read today, I believe the Lions Broncos game got flexed to Thursday, or excuse me, Saturday. From
Saturday,
yep. So it's a Saturday night game. Be December 16th instead of the 17th. So that's kind of exciting. They're playing Saturday against the Dallas Cowboys on December 30th. They play Christmas Eve on Sunday against the Vikings, and that'll be in Minnesota. And then, of course, they close it out on the 7th of January against the Vikings in Detroit. But this is the first of 2 road games in a row. And you mentioned they got to go to Chicago again. That's the week after. So, but just not looking too far ahead. Got to beat these Saints. And yeah, I think the Lions are in good shape. But this team could, I mean, if they don't really get it right back to where they were, say from weeks 2 to the bye week, yeah, they'll probably win 10 games. Will likely win the division, but I don't like their chances of getting out of the first round of the playoffs if that's the case. If they write things, I think 12-5 is very doable, and you're obviously be hosting a game regardless, winning the division, but you got a pretty good shot of winning that said game. And even if that ship has sailed with Philly, which it may have, they're going to need some help because they don't face them head to head. you at least got to posture yourself for second place. And they're very much in the thick of that race. They were holding that spot until they lost on Thursday and at Thanksgiving. And then the Niners have taken that spot. So that would be a pretty important spot right there. Yeah, at least you would face the number 7 team, the last wild card gets in. And then you're hosting the second round game, which is probably going to be like a Frisco or a Dallas, and I'd much rather play them in Ford Field than on the road. I mean, that's just the way
Absolutely.
So if you want to make a playoff run, then this is a must-win game, and so let's do that. Let's win this game. Yeah, confident they'll win it, and a lot of exciting football still left, which is cool. I mean, I normally, Justin, we ever since we've been doing this podcast, we start talking draft already.
I know. Yeah, I believe that's come up. Where you start looking at positional needs and whatnot. But no, we're right in the thick of this thing, like you said, and I do want that second spot. I want that number 2 seed, like you just said. When you just said that, I just imagined in my mind, like, hey, we win that first round. The second round, we get a San Francisco or Dallas coming to Ford Field. Are you kidding me? I mean, we're talking about Lions football in January, a home playoff game. It just doesn't get any better than that. So that's my standard. That's my level of expectation. I'm sure it's Campbell and company's expectation as well. But
yeah,
that's where, and also too, I don't know if you know, was it CJ Gardner-Johnson was being really cryptic on Instagram today, and he tweeted out. He put on Instagram line emoji, and then he put December 20th, and that was it. So I don't know if he's hinting towards he's going to return around that time, but if that's true, then hopefully he would be back in time for the Dallas game.
And not speculating because like you said, we don't know, but that is cryptic, and unless he's having a big Christmas party or something that day, who knows? But what a boost it would be to get him back, and then possibly James Houston back on defense as well. Oh goodness! Now you've got a pass rush specialist and arguably your best coverage defensive back on your team back again. My God,
I've heard story and we see it. He's grinding. CJ Gardner-Johnson. He wants to come back, and he sees this team and he believes in this team. So why not? I mean, heck, you got Aaron Rodgers he tore his Achilles and he's out there throwing the football. He's eyeing a return in December too. So we're starting to see it's not like how I was growing up. If someone had an injury like CJ Gardner-Johnson or Aaron Rodgers, that was it. Shut it down, season over. Yep. Whether your team is going to make the playoffs or not. But now you're starting to see across the league, especially with our team, these guys, get hurt early in the season, and your team has a chance to go forth, in the playoffs and beyond. They're itching to come back and they want to contribute. So that's another good sign too, as well.
Yeah, it's exciting. But even if those two guys don't come back, but there is a key injury we didn't talk about. And I want to touch on this. Alex Anzalone is going to miss this game. And that's a big deal. But I think we're going to see a lot of Jack Campbell. We're probably going to see some Rodrigo and certainly Derek Barnes. But thoughts on that before we wrap up?
Yeah, we forgot to touch on that. So I think it's safe to say Alex Anzalone is not going to be in the lineup Sunday at New Orleans, his former team as well. But we are going to see a lot of Jack Campbell, and that was per Aaron Glenn, defensive coordinator. This is it. The rookie's going to get a chance to be the quarterback of our defense, and we'll see, what he's got. And Rodrigo will be there to help him out, which is great. He's, working in at fullback on the offensive side of the football, had a catch on Thanksgiving as well. So you'll see him on both sides of the football, Rodrigo. So that's going to be exciting because we're really going to see what Jack Campbell has. And I think he sets a high standard for himself as well. So I think Sunday will be very exciting for number 46 out on the defense.
I just hope, and I mean this sincerely, that Jack Campbell and Sam Laporta are going to be okay because their Hawkeyes are going to play the Wolverines on Saturday in Indianapolis for the Big Ten Championship. Let's hope they're okay.
Hopefully that'll add some more fuel to the fire after the dust settles Saturday night, Indianapolis.
Yeah, exactly. I just thinking about them like, no, those guys are pros already, man. They're gonna be ready to play. If anything, like you said, they're gonna be more fired up to do some damage out there. But yeah, it's going to be a great game. So Sunday afternoon, the Superdome. The Lions and Saints have traditionally played pretty close games. It's been fun to watch. I think they're 500 on basically against each other. I think it's 13-14. Saints with 14 wins, but it's been a very tight series. I think there's one tie, as a matter of fact, their first game that they played. So, and then, of course, the second game, I think, was the Tulane game with Tom Dempsey kicking at the time the 61-yard field goal, which stood for a long time as the longest ever. But, of course, other players did it against the Lions, too. So, we've seen that. I don't want to keep talking about that, but let's not have that happen. Let's get a win in the Superdome. Let's be 9-3 and get ready for the Bears after that. So, for Detroit's finest, Justin Miracle, my name is Drew. Take care, everybody. We'll talk to you soon, and go Lions. This has been the Sports Peninsula Podcast. To subscribe to the podcast, simply click the subscribe button on our YouTube channel's homepage and give us a like. You can also follow our audio podcast on multiple platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Google Podcasts, just to name a few. Give us a follow on Twitter. Our handle is @SportsPodcast to check out our latest releases. Thank you again for watching and for your support. Remember, when you want to hear all about sports in the great state of Michigan, there is only one Sports Peninsula Podcast.